became the president. But the number of ladies who occupy top positions all over America is very high. And the lady entrepreneurs also is very large. And some of the sort of market cap or the value added of lady entrepreneurs in America is bigger than the GDP of many, many countries. And I think Japan remained where it was because the ladies have not contributed so much. America, the ladies contributed and are contributing. So I think one of the success stories for India is going to be when not just the city girls, but so many others like the Fogart sisters and the little Karmarkar who did the gymnastics, all of them come flowering up. And I think then nobody can stop us because the productivity is, generally the girls are more productive than the boys. I have two daughters, so I have a little affection for that. Both of them are professionals. So basically, the girls have that immigrant spirit still. The boys, thoda bhi thanda ho gaya, and maybe with the distractions, with 50% being girls in the colleges, I'd find it difficult to study. Yeah? The key sectors that will beckon you as you graduate are in two parts. So on the make for India type of area, you will have the manufacturing like automobiles, railways, electronics, heavy engineering, power. And then in the newer make for India will be the pharmaceuticals, the sort of front-ended technology around sensors and things like that. And then the traditional areas like oil and gas, food processing. You will have the knowledge area like biotech. So there's a wide angle, media and entertainment, aerospace will be a big sector, So basically, and all the IT-enabled startups. So basically, you have a very wide choice. And my experience has been, try to go into areas, even though the first time you may not know, but whenever you settle in, to what you like, and not try to copy because somebody else likes computer science-oriented job. You may become bored sitting in front of the computer all the time. So you choose what is your passion, even though initially it may be a little less salary, but you will make it. Because I still remember something my father told me when I was just passed. Those IITs were not that well known. In fact, in Delhi, when we used to wear our blazers and go to Delhi University to play, I was a good sportsman. So when we used to go to play tennis or any other game, all the girls in Miranda House and in Lady Irwin College used to only look at the Stephanians, the Stephen boys and the Delhi School of Economics. IIT was not a brand that time. But by the time we passed out, they started looking at us. So, so it takes some time to build a brand. And I hope NMIMS really comes up like that. I still remember when I was in Delhi, DPS had just started. And they used to be in tents. And these boys used to come from modern school in Columbus and all. They used to call DPS Delhi Pig Society. Now you see where DPS is. So basically, I think you have but choose the job, at least may not be the first job, but whenever you settle in, something that you like. Because if you like, then you will not get all those problems of blood pressure and tensions and all that, because nobody gets sick because of hard work. Absolutely, I can tell you. People only get sick when they don't enjoy their work. And of course, you must have some good hobbies. Not necessarily everybody has to be a sportsman, but at least music, at least some, outlets you must have. And since there are so many boys and girls here, and so one thing I learned from my boss in my young days, I was just getting married. So he said, KV, don't be in anything but your normal behavior with your fiancé and wife when you get married. Don't try to be extra good at something you are not. But after that, you'll be unhappy for the whole life. Whereas if you're normal, you run away to the site, you'll come home at 10 o'clock at the night. Initially, she'll grumble, but afterwards, she'll get used to it. And then when you start coming home early, when you become senior, she'll be so happy. So, so this is one of the things. I think everybody has to work hard. At least today, we didn't have to commute so much. You guys commute a lot, so it's not easy. But one of the things that worries me, worries of course everybody in India, is that the manufacturing area, in spite of all our big talk of Make in India and all, is not still caught on. And for example, the manufacturing GDP as a percentage of total GDP in China is about 34%. Thailand 35, India is only 15. So this is a very big cause for worry, and our spend on R&D is also less than 1% of GDP, whereas even China is more than 1.6%. Of course, Germany and all smaller countries, but 3%, USA 3%, South Korea almost 4%. Israel, which is really a benchmark for innovation, is 4.5%. So basically, these are the two worrying areas of India, really speaking, if you want to jump to the next stage, especially when all over the world things get tightened up. Technology not be easily given. The manufacturing is not easy to just get agreements and export. So this low growth in manufacturing is responsible in a way for India's transition from agriculture to services, bypassing low-skilled and semi-skilled manufacturing sector. All over, you can't expect everybody in rural, generally the whole world, from rural, you come into manufacturing, low-skilled, then you go to semi-skilled, high-skilled, and then you go to higher education to the services. So this phenomena has made India's recent growth to be infamously termed as jobless growth. This is one of our dangers, actually. The reason why you have all the Nirbhayas and so many other things, these tendencies, because of this, where output and employment shares of Indian manufacturing have hardly risen appreciably or not risen in the last 10 to 15 years. India will be the world's most populated country before 2030, outpacing China because of our not having any restrictions on it. India will be unable to convert its demographic transition into demographic dividend without sustained economic growth. This is where, of course, there's so much effort now on skill development and various other means of enlarging, but I think this is going to be one of our, otherwise this demographic dividend, this very large young working population, unless you have a large working population supporting a relatively smaller, older, non-working population, then only the growth propels. All the countries like America and Japan grew on this logic, that you need very large, young, vibrant working population to support the older pensioners. Otherwise, there's always a danger. Otherwise, India, the question should haunt our mind is, can India become rich before it becomes old? And China has done that. They got through before the market started closing in. So they become rich before they got too old. But I think that will be one of our important questions as we go forward. How do we become rich as a country before we become old? Because then you can't support that type of population. Sheer scale of the opportunity and the challenges that India faces is unprecedented. It's both. I mean, in a way, all of us those days studied senior Cambridge, so we did all the English classics. So there's a famous thing in the Tale of Two, the best of times and it was the worst of times. It's like that. It's a question of how you look at it. All of us should look at it as the best of times. I think that's the key of success in life. Look at the positives rather than the negatives. Keep away from cynical people. In your friend circle, don't get into gossiping of people who always cry. वो रोते सो रहे तक रोते रहेंगे. They'll make you also depressed. But I think India has got this issue that how do we get 10 to 12 million youth will enter the working age group annually for the next 20 years. And 1 million new jobs are required a month. India is currently projected to have the world's largest need for infrastructure investment. And the second largest infrastructure deficit is there. Why? Because the money is not there. All the people who took up the loans, from the banks, many of them, most of them are not paid back. So there is a heavy NPAs in the banks. I mean, there are some banks which are over 10% NPA. That means they are sick, they can't do anything more. Even the best of banks are 6%, 5%, 4%. So this is another challenge we have. So for which you need public-private partnership, you need FDIs coming from abroad, but they will come if the return for their money is good. It's not bad in India, but it has to become much better. But otherwise, without infrastructure, you will not have efficiency. You won't have world-class efficiency. You have seen today, even in the Bangalore and all, how much time it takes to travel from here to there, and etc., etc. It's a problem. Power is another issue. Let me now reflect on my own journey from where I was like you all, passing out, and by trying to give some reflections that will be useful to you. Of course, as I said, the world is a totally different place today than what it was. We all were more engineering driven those days. That was the type of jobs that everybody excited when you're studying in IITs. And the days of self-reliance. So a lot of the technology was deemed to be wanting, all the national laboratories had just come up. It was Jawaharlal Nehru's vision. IITs are thanks to Jawaharlal Nehru days. The world is different. Now, nowhere than before is technology so important and pervasive. The internet has connected the world together like no other force has ever done before. So as Professor said, it's all equalized now. So you have to be even that much more alive and smarter. And like, I think every 10 years, we all change our job in our career, moving from manufacturing to projects to engineering to R&D and construction and so on. But now you will change across domains. And I think if you stop learning, you will stop growing. I have a very nice saying which I said to myself, and I truly believe. I learned so much in his opening speech about this old way of learning in the Vedas and getting a scholarship and the Western way. Anyway, like Vivekananda said, the best of the West has to be taken also and combined with the best of the East. So that way, so remain a graduate engineer at heart, I say to all my young boys. So remain a young management graduate at heart. I mean, you have to be like that. Otherwise, you stop learning, you stop growing, and then you will get fossilized very soon. And in today's world, you'll get fossilized very, very fast. The other part is from campus at IIT Delhi. I was interviewed and selected at Larsen & Toubro. I was fortunate to be an important contributor in shaping and growing L&T from a small 10 crore company to 150,000 crores now. For 4 decades into a national icon. Another thing would be proud. Be proud of your NMIMS. I still am very proud. I'll just tell you a small anecdote. In L&T, it's always known. First, early batches were all IIT boys. We had 4 out of 7 directors of IIT in those days. Now, of course, the IIT boys don't come to manufacturing. So I remember when we were building our power plant, Narendra Modi ji was invited. I had met him once when we were building the GNFC factory and we had lunch together. So my standard phrase when I meet people is, where are you being, this, that? I said, from IIT to L&T. So he remembered that. So when Mr. Nayak was introducing me when he landed on the helicopter, he said, sir, this is Mr. Venkatraman. He's been a long confidant and worker with me. He said, of course I know. IIT to L&T. So this is Narendra Modi. I mean, just met once over lunch, and then he has the memory to just, do it. And that the tagline of "We make the things that make India proud." I mean, this is the tagline of L&T. So in each of your companies, in each of your things, you will have your own similar satisfactions. But then show it out. May not be as much as Virat Kohli does, but to a reasonable extent. You must enthuse that enthusiasm. Because if you have energy, see, as you go up in life, there are 4 A's that matter. One is attitude. Second is adaptability. Third is assertiveness, but not rudeness, assertiveness. And fourth is accomplishment. You must be proud of someone. You must score centuries. You can't keep on getting out at 20 and 30 and all that, like that Mahmudullah does in Bangladesh cricket. So basically what I'm saying is, you have to have that. And I've learned 3 C's. Never compare. Set your own standard. Because each one is unique. You can't copy him. And so never compare, but set your very high standard. Next thing is, don't criticize all the time. People will criticize you also. All of us have got more bad points maybe than good points, or equally good, bad. And last thing, don't complain. Try to conquer the problem. Otherwise, you'll find you will not enjoy life. So I think it's very important that you learn these things very high. Today, what we wear and what we are. Right in Bangalore, we have our electronics wing, which makes all the electronics for the missiles. We had the construction machinery factory, but our real trump cards are in Hajira, where we make all the rockets that go to right up to Chandrayaan. All the rocket motor casings that are used in PSLVs are made by Larsen & Toubro. The radar is made by Larsen & Toubro. You talk of the nuclear power plants built by Larsen & Toubro. All the big platforms built by Larsen. All the dairies, we gave up that business, but in Whitefield in my young days, I've come and started up the Brook Bond's coffee plant, Brew. way back in the 70s. So what I'm trying to say is be proud of what you have. I've been lucky. We are also an information technology company. We are also a technology service, not as big as others because we got that later on. We built India's nuclear submarine. All the BrahMos missiles are built by us. So basically, I found one thing: be passionate of what you do, and also be passionate of your organization. Every organization will have plus and minus. Look at more the plus and, of course, improve the minus. Innovation, engineering, and technology has been the DNA of L&T. Because when I meet customers, I always tell them, love and trust, sir. L&T is love and trust, which is true. Because we are a very ethical company. We don't come in headlines for wrong things. Of course, when I boast of it too much, my wife says, shoo, L&T means lunch and tea. So, already you have various ways of how various people look at it. Especially in the house, it's very difficult to impress your, I'll tell you one more small thing as a lighter side. I have 3 small grandchildren, 5, 6, and 8 or so. They all live abroad, unfortunately. So once they're all here together, so my wife said, why don't you go and see Tata's factory? So they all came. So before they came, they rang up my office, my secretary, and said, what do you like to have? Oh, we want chocolate cake, we want this. All that was organized. And they came. Then they sat in my office. Obviously, they can't take them to the factory, into the workshop. They went back. So my wife very excitedly asked them, what did you do? What do you see how Tata works? Because there's always, my children used to complain, Tata never comes to America or London where they stay each. He comes on a Friday and goes away on a Sunday night. He's called the high and by Tata rather than the real Tata. He said, no, Tata does no work. He's just sitting there with computers and the phone, and all the time the phone he's talking. He does no work. So it was a great disappointment. Luckily that time we were building the Bombay airport. We built also the Bangalore airport, we've done the Hyderabad airport, Delhi airport. So I said, no, itna besharm bhi nahi hone ka hai. So I took them there, and then when they saw everybody wearing the hats, and they also saw Tata wearing a hat, and they all, they said, now party, yes. Tata is Bob the Builder. So I think it's very important, that you have that sort of zest. And what is very important, you all have to have, along with innovation, entrepreneurial thinking. We should all think like Gujus and Marwaris. I mean, them I know more because I come from, I'm sure they're equally similar people here. With that they are. So you have to, think money in an ethical way. There's an old movie of Marilyn Monroe in my school days. It was called, there's a nice statement which says that, honey, it's all about money. So money is important, but done in an ethical way. And as a good manager, you got to not only have technical capabilities and all, but you must have the ability to smell money. And I always have learned, a good manager maintains value. That means that minimum you have to do to earn your salary. A good business leader enhances value. But an entrepreneurial business leader manager multiplies value. That is why you see some companies, market cap going here to there. Some companies remaining constant. Of course, if you have absolute useless management, then they go down also. So never lose your zest and curiosity, and always strive for excellence. Learn to work in teams. This is very important. As you grow up in life, the people who have succeeded, if you write a story about them, there will be people who were able to work in teams. You can never be prima donna in today's world. And therefore, remember that. Most important, take care of your health. Health is wealth, And so very important that you have some hobbies. You don't necessarily have to go to the gym, but you can go for a walk, you can do something. Because the more, as you grow up in life, after 45, 50, your success depends on your health. But if you're having backache all the time, this, that, in a subtle way, you will not rise. You will be sidelined, and maybe in today's world, you will be sacked also. But basically, health is very, very important, and remember that. There's an old saying, when you have health, you have hope. When you have hope, you have everything. I think this is very important. And participate in all your hobbies. Don't be a one-track guy. Because as you grow up in life, all people who succeed have to be a little all-round. I mean, there will always be exceptions if somebody is super genius. I'm not talking about geniuses. The normal people who have done well, they all have to be all-round. But be innovative-oriented and grasp the digital age and use IT in simpler and more agile ways. I think that's going to be the key in your era, the digital analytics, big data, how you mine data and use the same information more effectively, not just in selling soap or selling some toothpaste, but also in your normal life.